Welcome to Resist with Joy podcast, where we amplify the voices of everyday people and empower our listeners to engage, show up, and become the policy shapers of tomorrow. I'm Tina Marie.
I'm Martina, and we want to dive into top of the mind news of this last week. I'm always excited when we record, and we have lots to share with you. The first thing I want to do is a shout out to the folks that are listening. We had an event this week. It was a protest on May 1st. It was called Workers Over Billionaires. And we had a couple of people walking up to us and saying, thank you for creating the podcast, and they're listening to it. So we thank you.
This is for you.
It's a big motivation for us that it's only our fourth recording. And it's happening. I think it will happen more and more. We get more organized on our back end too. So thank you for those folks listening. So the first thing on our list is the Supreme Court and two decisions that were made this week. While we are not legal analysts, I do understand that these are really big blows to the world that we want to live in. And the first one was a decision about that the Voting Rights Act that was passed in 1964 that has all go back to the civil rights and voting rights movement of the 60s. It was gutted in 2013. Section 5 was gutted, and it had really repercussions about voting around the country. But this time, Section 2 was under fire. And the way this Supreme Court now made a decision, it's making it more and more likely that the minority wants to rule the majority. And in the case of Black people in the southern states, especially that are on Republican legislators, or those states have really red states, they are already making efforts to redraw the districts and gerrymander even more of what they've already done.
In the middle of a midterm, mind you, like we are smack dab in the middle of the midterms, people have already submitted their applications to become candidates. Mm-hmm. And they're already campaigning for months, mm-hmm. and they might be completely district out if their state decides to gerrymander the state in the middle of an election, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's really a taste of what might come in the fall, all the shenanigans that are coming from the federal government, but also what governors can do. And I listened to someone you might want to listen to. He's really the expert in this field. His name is Elias with Democracy Docket. I listened to a couple of videos from him explaining the case. What he's so blown away by is the governor of Louisiana, and who was involved in this Supreme Court decision. There were the plaintiffs. The governor made an emergency declaration. So what is an emergency declaration? If we have a natural disaster, a governor does an emergency declaration. It's on paper and it's written out and a seal on it. And it's usually when something really bad happens to the people. But this dude in Louisiana, he said, no, we're going to make an emergency declaration because we want to redistrict even more and we want to change things again. While actually ballots were already sent out to folks abroad and the military. It's pretty mind-blowing, and there's a lot of challenges, but we really have to hold on tight to our seats to get through this year. And the best way to do it is to stay informed and listen to so much independent media that is so stacked up now with experts and really, really good information. I feel very informed to all the folks that I'm listening to, and it all makes sense. There's a lot of, the world makes sense to me. It's not a good world, but I understand the world, where it's going. Yeah. And then the second decision was handed down this week is about, I have to look it up, Mifepristone. This is a medication that helps women to abort a pregnancy. And it's a tablet or a pill, and it's being mailed. It's allowed until this decision was made that it can be mailed from one state to another state, and this is now being taken away. So it's another blow to us women to have the right to choose what we want to do with our bodies.
And that just makes it a lot more difficult for women who live in states with an abortion ban to access abortion, because that was one of the safest ways for them to get it is through the mail. But now if they want to get an abortion, they're going to have to travel across state lines and pay extra money for hotels and gas and all this other stuff. But some states are even trying to make that illegal and trying to make women, which is crazy in and of itself. I mean, we live in an entire country with different states, and we have the ability to free travel across different states, move across state lines if we want to. But some states are going to try to make it so that women who are pregnant cannot travel across state lines. Or if they do, they want to have a pregnancy test before they leave and when they come back. So we're getting into Handmaid's Tale, essentially, what this is. And this is just another step towards that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There was a Supreme Court decision, was it 2022? When Roe fell, was in 2022.
Yes.
See, well, 4 years later, and they're still hammering on this, and they're still changing rules and laws, and it's really mind-blowing. The
And
world
mind you,
they want to create.
Mind you, even though that Supreme Court decision happened under Biden, the Supreme Court justices that made that decision were appointed by Bush and Trump.
That's right.
So,
yeah, the Supreme Court is a big.
And Biden actually did try to make a couple of executive orders, if I'm not mistaken, but they got struck down. So I think that he did whatever he could do, and we didn't really have an amenable Congress at the time with majority to codify Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, it's that could be a whole other podcast that we just talk about how we feel about this. But I wanted to flag that today, that the Supreme Court is handing down decisions that for the world they want to create. And it's even more and more important that we stay engaged and stay informed and keep pushing back.
Hi, Savannah here with a quick but important update. When we recorded, a federal appeals court had just ruled to block the mailing of Mifepristone across state lines, a devastating blow to women in states with abortion bans who relied on mail access as one of their safest, most private options. Here's the update. The very next day, the Supreme Court stepped in and temporarily restored access. As of May 4th, women can once again obtain Mifepristone at pharmacies, through the mail, and via telehealth without an in-person doctor's visit. But, and this is important, the key word is temporarily. The order is only in effect for 1 week while both sides respond and the court more fully considers the issue. This is a pause, not a victory. The fight is still very much alive. We'll have a full update as things progress. In the meantime, the link to the full PBS NewsHour article is in the show notes below. Stay informed, stay engaged. Back to the show.
And it will take us a long time to get to this place for the world we want to live in, but I'm ready for this resistance. Hence, let's resist with joy while we're doing that. Yeah. All right. What did you have on your mind?
So there is another topic that we want to discuss today, and it is following up on the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. There's a creator online that goes by Tizzyent, Tizzyent, and he actually did a really great video, and he compared a news segment that was displaying the video of the shooter coming in, but at the very top corner of that video, it said CapCut AI. And this was broadcast on the news. So if news channels are broadcasting AI content, how can we trust what's going on? He did find the original security camera clip, and he did point out the differences between the two footages. And if you'll see in the one that got broadcast, the shooter came in and didn't have any gun in his hand or anything. And in the actual footage, you'll see what actually happened, where he did come in with a gun. Essentially, what was shown is that he came in from one side. He went into a room, and then one of the officers watched him as he was in the room. The officer then, I guess, spoke with him or something. We couldn't hear the audio. But as soon as the officer turned his head and started walking down the hall, not even a second later, the shooter comes out with a full rifle in his hand. We have no idea how he got that rifle in there to begin with, because if you look on the security, you couldn't see it when he was walking into that room. But not even a second later, after the officer was talking with him and turned his head, he came out with a full rifle and started coming down the hall. And multiple officers saw him running, and only one of them actually took out their gun to try to shoot them. And even at close range, they couldn't get it. So it's unclear whether the person came in with the gun or if he had the gun already stashed in that room. But Tizzyent did do a great video on his Instagram where he did showcase the different actual footage with the AI footage, and I recommend everybody go there and actually watch it. And we'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's really important that we stay in the truth. And that's the big fight we have, right? We want to have facts, and we want to have the truth. And that's why independent media is so important to debunk so many things that are on the news, on the corporate news. And they're all bought into this, propaganda and trying to spin a narrative. And we're going to unspin this narrative. We just want to make sure people get good information. So I was blown away when I saw Tizzy's review of this footage, what they're all trying to feed us. All right. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned it last week, how the propaganda works in Russia, right? And how this movie got an Oscar about it. Told my parents this morning about it, my mom and my sister. And I will make sure they watch it too, because it's all about how the mind is manipulated. And if you understand that they're trying to manipulate your brain, then a lot of things maybe fall in place and you see more clear, because you can say, no, that's propaganda and that's the truth. The sky is blue and nobody can tell me that the sky is green. So you have what the truth is in the moments that really are important. All right. Next thing is.
But is the sky really blue? Because we all see the sky, and is it the same color blue for all of us?
Well, we can talk about those nuances, I guess. But I don't think it's green.
Anywho, moving on.
I want to give you an update. We keep talking about the anti-Citizen United law that the state legislator in Hawaii got through the House and the Senate. And then there was a conference this week where they hash out their differences between what the bills should say. And we can report that it moved forward. It will be going to the full vote this week in the state legislature. And if they sign it, then it goes to the governor. And then the bill is the new law in Hawaii that corporation cannot be treated as entities or as persons. That's what Citizen United really created as a Supreme Court decision back in 2010. There's just one little asterisk on this, and that's what I guess politicians, that's why we don't like politicians, because they call it a poison pill. The way they wrote the law at the moment says the Attorney General for our state can always make a memo and say, no, it is not the law. So there is this weird backdoor that opened up in the last final minutes of how the bill was written. And a lot of people are fighting now that there will be an amendment presented on Wednesday when the full House is voting on it. And if you like to be informed about that, I really recommend to be on the mailing list for Indivisible, because they have this great team of folks looking after all these little details and trying to put pressure on the politicians. So yeah, next week we will know more when we know what the full House of the full legislature voted on this week and how the bill is actually being passed. So we still have a really good chance to have the first law in the United States that will take back Citizen United for the corporations that are incorporated here in this.
And imagine if we can get this bill passed without any weird backdoor stipulations. Hawaii is going to be the first state to implement a law like this statewide across the whole nation. So we're going to be pioneers if we can get this passed and get it passed, practically and with integrity and not any backdoor little loopholes. But yeah, I think this is going to be great for us.
Yeah, this was the update about, it's called SB 2471, Anti-Citizen United Law. You can look at the news too. They're all reporting about it. But there are all these little nuances. And I heard about this particular backdoor deal or red pill thing just this morning, Sunday morning. So we keep our fingers crossed and keep putting pressure on those that make these decisions. It's just a few people. Usually it's just a few people that make good decisions or really bad decisions. And we'll see. All right, back to you. What's on your list next?
Well, if we haven't been paying attention, Spirit Airlines, an entire airline industry, is shutting down, essentially. They reckon that their failure is due to the ever rising cost of gas. And they've tried to be the airline. I know we all make jokes about them here and there, but they did try to be the airline that is the cheapest amongst all of the other airlines. And with the rising cost of gas due to the, Iran war that we inserted ourselves in needlessly, unfortunately, they're having to shut down their doors. There was talks of them getting bailed out by the government, which was a $500 million deal by the Trump administration. But apparently there was some fallout with that. I did hear rumors that it's because the administration wanted to use some of their airlines for military usage. I haven't been able to confirm that one way or the other, but essentially the deal fell through. due to disagreements. So they're essentially closing their doors. Good news on this, though, is that less than 24 hours later, someone online, and I'll get their information to put in the show notes, they bought up the domain called letsbuyspirit.com. And I think the website is down at the moment, but if you go to it when it gets fixed up, hundreds of people pledged donations to buy Spirit Airlines, I being one of them. Nobody transferred any money or anything because this is just more of a pledge. But the last time I checked, there was $2.3 million that were pledged to co-op the business and buy Spirit Airlines and basically run it as a citizens run business, co-op business. And I thought that was pretty worth noting for this particular purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to just make sure the straight line is like Trump says we don't do any wars. He goes to war in Iran. He closes the Strait of Hormuz, or Iran closes it. Gas prices are going through the roof. And there's a direct line that jet fuel was so expensive then for Spirit Airlines that this was kind of the death blow for them. Mm-hmm. So nobody can say, hey, the administration beforehand, that was the problem. No. You're in charge, guys. It's your fault. Yep. That's, there's so much information floating around. But these are the direct connections between cause and effect.
I think this is like one of the first times in our human experiences where we had like direct cause and effect from government to a company being negatively impacted by the decisions of our government. It usually takes years for those consequences to be drawn out. Mm-hmm. And then by the time they're drawn out, we have a different administration. And then people automatically assume it's the current administration's fault for whatever's happening. But really the fallout happened like long before. Yeah. So this is the first time we're actually seeing direct cause and effect within a matter of weeks.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, this is, you said just something very interesting. It's about, personalities, and it seems to be, I said that as from a thinking of coming from one nation, from Germany, coming here, and I'm here for a long time, but that is this theme here, and let's blame everybody else all the time. It's like this taking responsibility, right? This really ticks me off all the time because I grew up differently. It's like, yeah, you make a mistake. Well, okay, say that is a mistake. Do better next time, right? But it seems to be we're surrounded all the time now by folks that just cannot take responsibility. They're really disordered. I mean, we know they're all disordered in various personality disorders, but also like just mean-spirited and mean-spirited Spirit Airlines connection. It was a mean-spirited decision to take Spirit Airlines down. Yeah, but that bothers me all the time. People cannot take responsibility for decisions that they made, and they're bad decisions.
I think it's because like growing up, we've just become so egocentric. Like we've just centered around our own egos. And it takes a lot of effort for someone to de-ego themselves, essentially, to step back and say, hey, I effed up, let me try to fix my mistake. And for whatever reason, a lot of people just aren't trained to remove their ego from the situation and take accountability. And I don't know what happened, what the cause of that is, but it's definitely something I've noticed across my entire life.
Yeah. I mean, maybe more women are in charge. They're more about collaboration versus like, what can I? I'm a great guy, and what do I get out of it? But this is a longer discussion, I guess, but it shows up all the time. It's the other people's fault. It's a collective fault to put something like these people in charge. We are feeling it all. We're all feeling it now.
Yes, we are. What's next on your list?
Well, we wanted to talk about two things that happened to politicians, one here in Hawaii, and the other one is actually on the East Coast. But it will tie into Tina Marie's part where she wants to explain to you guys how the Democratic Party works here in Hawaii, because I actually signed up for the Democratic Party and Tina Marie motivated me to do that. And it's actually a really good thing, because if you want to make change, you have to change the inner workings of the party that is in charge. We cannot trust the Republican Party, so we have to change the Democratic Party. But we get to that in a minute. I wanted to show two examples where here in Hawaii, Lieutenant Governor Luke, so she was the right hand for Governor Green, she was under suspicion to being corrupt, and there was about money exchange. And she made the decision last week or the week before, she will not run for lieutenant governor or for any other public office again. She's going to retreat. And that's exactly what we want. We want these people shamed, get out of here. It is not proven yet, but it was so much a stained situation. She was just, well, she retrieved. That's the story. So you
And I'm
can get
actually,
people out of office that we, yeah. Go
and
ahead.
the decision to actually investigate, because the whole deal was that there was like
Right.
$35,000 that was misappropriated or not logged properly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the decision had to be made to actually investigate who that lawmaker was.
Mhm.
I was actually part of the governing body on the state central committee to actually vote in favor of the investigation.
Mhm.
Nobody knew who it was, but then she came out essentially and talked about like how it might have been her. And when she was going through further investigation, lots of other things were uncovered, like, just logging donations incorrectly or what have you, and it's leading to a lot of other problems. Doesn't look good. I am sad that it's happening to her because I have met her and she seems like a really nice person. The impression that I got from her did not seem like she was malicious in any way. So I think this might, personal opinion of myself, I think this just might be, something where administrative people might have just miscalculated things or anything. But unfortunately, things like this does fall on the person in charge, and that would be her. So I think she's a nice person. I didn't get any bad vibes from her, but also it's still an ongoing investigation. Things could be uncovered. I only did meet her once, but I am glad the investigation did happen. And I feel like if things like this arise, we do need to hold our own people accountable to be the change that we want to see.
That's right. And that's one of the big themes that we really have to talk about, the corruption of the folks that are in public office. And we're still in democracy. It's all very shaky, but the people rule, right? And we don't want to be misled. We don't like corruption, period. So if you even have the sniff of it, that's something I just thought about it because you said, she seems to be nice and there was maybe an administrative mistake. I hear all of that. But I think of a small business owner. I mean, my head rolls or my business goes down a hill if I don't know where the money is. If my accounting is not right, I'm the one that takes it, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I expect that from the officials too. So if you want to be a
100%.
politician, make sure you know where the money is because it's just important. Anyway, we
100%.
want to make sure that you know that the lieutenant governor, she is not going to run for re-election. Tina Marie was involved in the governing body that made the decision to actually investigate. It's an interesting aspect of this.
Part of the decision making.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I remember you putting up this video when you were making your point. I'm like, she's involved. Very cool.
Yep.
And then I wanted to touch on something that's actually happening on the East Coast. And I'm not sure how many people follow that, but there's a man, his name is Graham Plattner, and he's in a primary in Maine to run for US Senate. And this is just a clear story of how the establishment actually put someone into the primary. So these two people were running against each other. And the one is Graham Plattner, like brand new guy on the scene, and he makes a lot of sense because he's a common sense person and he's just a normal like you and me. And then the establishment of the Democratic Party put someone against him, and she was the governor, and I think she's in her 70s, and her name is Janet Mills. Is that right? Janet Mills. Yeah. So they were running to be primarying each other, who would be then going to the general election. And interesting enough, there were some polls being taken, and Graham Plattner was 40 points in front of an established person, and she actually dropped out of the race. So Graham Plattner will run in the general election now for the U.S. Senate seat. This is a really big deal if you think of like, we're all unhappy with the Democratic Party, but there is so much in each state and in each county, people are getting involved. And that perfectly aligned with what Tina Marie wants to teach us today. Because I said to her the other day, stop using all these acronyms and HCC and SCC and what I don't understand. So help us out. How's the Hawaiʻi Democratic Party set up? That's the question I have for you today.
That is a great question. And I'm very happy to answer that for you. Here, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to get into my politician voice now. Yeah, so the Democratic Party in Hawaii, I got involved about 1.5 years ago, I think. And this is the first time I'm involved in any kind of party politics. So all of the nuances and how things are set up was completely elusive to me. And I know that all of us have a lot of frustrations with the Democratic Party, myself included. I made the decision to get involved because I also looked at what it would take to set up an entirely new party, one that would be comparable to the Democrats and Republicans. And it takes a lot of effort and money, and we just don't have time for that. I encourage anyone out there to set up new parties and gain a coalition. But if we want to infiltrate the Democratic Party and push them further left, that's kind of where I'm involved in. So I initially got involved in the county committee party. I became assistant secretary. And then when a spot opened up for me to be a representative for the state central committee, that's SCC, I decided to take up on that. So I became a member. And the way that the Democratic Party in Hawaii is run is we have the chair, vice chair, secretary, assistant secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, and then they have county chairs from all to the different islands. So as far as the Democratic Party is concerned, there are 4 counties in Hawaii. I know if you go look up online how many counties are in Hawaii, and you'll see 5, but that's just for the state. But as far as the Democratic Party is concerned, there is 4 major counties, one from Hawaii, Hawaii County, which is where we are, Kaua'i County and the surrounding island, Maui County and their surrounding islands, and then Oahu and their surrounding islands. So each one of them has a chair for their initial county, and then they also make up part of the state Democratic Party. There's 2 other members called a national committee member, a male, non-male and non-female. It's very specific language because somebody could be non-binary and go for either or. I am unclear about how they get elected, so I'm still learning that part. But the vice chair, secretary, assistant secretary, treasurer, and assistant treasurer, they all get nominated and voted in at the state convention. Also, somebody that's running for chair of the entire party of the state also gets nominated at the state convention. And lo and behold, I just happen to know somebody that's running for party chair that I think would make a great chair for the party. Now, in order for myself to apply to be party chair, I did have to be a party member for at least a year. That is one of the requirements. I had to submit a headshot, a statement, a candidate statement, or what have you. And then I also had to get signatures from party members. And those signatures have to have come from people that are also registered with the state party and that live across the different islands. So I got a few signatures from Kaua'i, from Oahu. I think I got maybe one from Maui, and then I got several here from Hawaii County. So it is important to sign up to be part of your state's party if you want to gain these key positions or even help someone else gain those key positions, because you need to be a member in order for your nomination to go to that person to be valid. So yeah, I'm running for state chair. I am the biggest underdog here. It's my first state convention as a delegate, my first ever party politics, anything. There's 3 other people that are also running. I only spoke to one of them so far. I haven't spoken to the other 2 yet, but they are probably more well known. So I am the biggest underdog and I probably won't win, but I'm going for it anyways. And there are more reasons to run for something than just simply gaining to win. My whole goal right now is to, 1, put my name out there, show everybody that I am serious about running for something, and push through my message. And my message is we need more transparency. We need to be recruiting people to run for office in every district. And I don't see that happening yet. The prior chair did a really great job of being visible and out in the community. And I have huge shoes to fill in terms of that. But yeah, I think we can take it a step further and actually start recruiting people. If I was really strategic about running for state chair in the future, I would have to go about this a little bit differently, because the only people that can vote for state chair are people who are designated as a delegate and people who have the money to fly over to Oahu for the state convention. So those are huge barriers that creates a lot of privilege and a lot of closed door decisions. So one thing that if that was made known to me back in December, I could have been recruiting people to show up to their biennial district elections a couple months ago and be delegates that will be committed to go to the state convention. So there's a whole to do about that. But essentially, the state party makes up of those core members that I mentioned. They also make up the 4 county chairs. And then there's other people that also make a part of the county. part of the state party voting members. So we have the core members, we have the county chairs, and then we have at-large representatives. So that is a non-male and non-female, so 2 people from every single county that are a county representative. I'm actually one of those, so that's how I became part of the State Central Committee. I'm a county rep for Hawaii. And then we have districts, Senate districts in every single county. Hawaii County has 4 Senate districts, and there's a non-male, non-female that gets voted in as well. So every single county has Senate districts, so 2 people from each. And then you have 2 representatives from every single caucus. So just a review of all the people that make up the State Central Committee are the core officers that I mentioned before. We have our county chairs that are voted in per county. We have our county representatives, we have our caucus representatives, and then we have our Senate district representatives. So there is an opportunity for every single person to get involved with their local community and become a State Central Committee officer, voting member.
Okay.
I promise I will break this down a lot better in future episodes and even make a chart for you, because I'm still learning about how to get involved. But I think if I can make a chart, I think that might make things a little bit more easier. I'll do that in future episodes, I promise.
But it's interesting, it's like it really takes a lot of people to make a lot of decisions, and we all have to agree on something. But that's democracy, what it's all about, right?
Now, can you imagine doing all of this for a brand new party in every single state? That's why I think it's easier to infiltrate versus create a whole new party.
Yeah. And on a high note here, that happened in Kaua'i just recently, right? What's the story there?
Kaua'i County just had their county convention. So we have a new county chair in Kaua'i. She's actually one of the Indivisible leaders in Kaua'i. And she encouraged a lot of her Indivisible members to run for something within the county. And I think there's about 20 people that became county committee officers and district officers. So that is the very grassroots level of getting involved with the Democratic Party. All of it is volunteer position. None of us are getting paid. Nope. But what we can do at the county level is create platforms that we want our elected officials to basically follow. And having those people in those core positions helps create a better democratic platform for our state. And that will help push our legislators to follow what we want.
Yeah. Just an explainer. I never really understood what platform means, but it is, what does our future look like? That's what we want to accomplish. And I guess it's called platform. Didn't make sense to me. I'm like, platform, my translation, lost in translation really. But I mean, I do understand now a party has a platform, but it is what our future is supposed to look like. And, if you want to change things, you have to get involved in a party platform to make these decisions. And we were at the Hawaii County, the
Hawaii County Convention. So that's the HC.
And that was something that we voted on, and it was about, should we do, ranked choice voting, and bring it to
added to our platform.
That's right. And that's what we want. We want something how Mandani got into power. And that's exactly what we want here too. We want to change within the Democratic Party how the right people just rise to the top within ranked choice voting. So I'm pretty excited about that. I still don't really understand everything, but that's okay. Just go along for the ride, and you tell me when I have to do certain things, and really important. And of course, I read up on things. But the platform that we pass at our county convention, it's basically telling our county legislators what we want them to vote on when they get to state legislator. Yeah. It's great. Wow, that was quite the show. A little longer than we thought, packed with information. And it all affects us. Everything we talked about affects us, affects our life. We will be back next week with another top of the mind news of the last week. We thank you for being here. And I say aloha.
Aloha. There, give you a heart.
I don't know how to do that.